Hello and welcome to Make the Logo Bigger. My name is Brenton. This podcast is your gateway into the world of advertising production, crafted especially for those who are stepping in new, aiming to become producers, or simply eager to understand the inner workings of advertising and marketing. We're here to share insights and knowledge you've been looking for, with stories, tips, and real conversations from the pros. We're simplifying the process for everyone with a production curiosity. Whether you're just starting out or keen to explore the production side of ads, you've found the right place. So let's jump in. Our guest today is Nigel Camilleri, the founder and driving force behind Safari Productions. With its inception in 2017 and a distinctive focus on car, tourism and adventure content, Safari and Nigel's journey highlight the significance of adaptability and the varied routes to success within this industry. Transitioning from a marketing background 18 years ago to spearheading multiple production teams and Safari, his story serves as an insightful guide for those eager to carve out their niche. Nigel delves into the essentials of what constitutes an effective producer, the value of thorough communication, and strategies for manoeuvring through the production landscape intricacies. Nigel Camilleri. What do you reckon, Nige, makes a good producer?
What makes a good producer is a tough question because I don't know if I'm one. I don't know if I'm qualified to comment on the matter. It's funny, I suppose, just from my experience in the last 15 years or so of doing what it is, I think communication's number one and organization's number two. I think having the ability to engage with people at all different levels, understanding the objectives of why you're doing something first and foremost, not just what you're doing, is really critical, because then you can ask the right questions and then you can communicate with anyone. If you're working through an agency scenario, then it's important to understand the dynamic that a producer plays when you're dealing through an agency, and the agency has its own dynamic with their own internal producer and then obviously the creative team, and then managing the clients and their suits. So to be able to be a good communicator but to understand that bigger picture is critical, because someone asks a question, you can give an answer, but if you actually understand what they're trying to get at, they might be asking the wrong question and you might be giving the wrong answer. So I think that's really key. And then the shoes on the other foot with the crew, really communicating really well with your team is then critical, and making sure that they're understanding what they're trying to achieve as well, because not everything's scripted. And from my point of view, most of our stuff is unscripted. So everyone really needs to know what they're doing, what their role is, how they're inputting into that, how they're making whatever it is that we're making the best it possibly can be. Because at the end of it, it's a collaboration between everyone that's involved in the project. There's not one person that's more important than the other. And I think when you're working in a team that everyone feels valued and understands their role, then the output is always better. And I think that comes through that sort of communication.
So if you say communication, then what actually is being a good communicator?
For me, good communication starts with understanding first. So then it's being able to convey that message, whatever it is, really clearly, so people understand what they're doing. There's nothing worse if someone's unsure. And that's the thing as well. People always question their own abilities. We all do that. It's human nature to go, I don't want to ask a question that people think I should know the answer to. So you don't want to put that pressure on people as well. So I think first and foremost, from my perspective, is having a really strong understanding of the bigger picture of, say, the project, what we're producing, and what the client's real critical factors are that are involved with that, how it's going to be distributed as well. All of these kinds of things matter because it affects the way that you then shoot it. And then that's the part that's working with my crew is really critical. So they're really understanding that side of things. So me being really clear. And it's also the things that are unsaid. You don't just communicate with your words. You communicate, you can see it's a body language. You know your team. You generally know people. You know when someone's a bit off or they're not or they're right. And you need everyone to be kind of at their best to make them the best possible thing. Body language is another way to communicate. I think dealing with stressful situations, I've definitely gotten a lot better in managing my own body language. So when something goes wrong, it's kind of really as quickly as possible moving away from something's gone wrong, why did it happen, to forget why it happened, go to how am I going to fix it, and then I'll deal with what happened later so it doesn't happen again on another shoot or later in the piece if it is something that could happen again. And I feel like when I was younger in terms of experience, maybe I wore that a bit more, and people feed off it. And especially if there's talent there, I mean, that's critical. Your body language, communication communicating with your body language with talent is critical, because if they pick up on stress from a crew and that, then it starts to come through their performance.
Yeah.
It is. And they're like, well, shit. And then, they start to doubt themselves or whatever, or if they slow things down in that. I think leading by example, being calm, being clear, being organized, critical for a producer.
Temperament is a big one as well. Just being able to remain calm when everything's going to shit.
I think a big, massive part of what we do is just mitigating risk and like really evaluating a job and going, okay, what if? Asking like that question, like, what if this happens? Yeah. What if this? What if that? And then if it does, what am I going to do? Yeah. And that's just such a powerful question for me to ask myself, and I do it on every job. And there's things that we can control and there's the things that we can't. Like weather is always one for us when we're shooting outdoors so frequently, and you're just praying to the weather gods all the time that it's going to be good, because the what if is like, oh, God, well, it's extra days and it's going to be extra cost. And then, can a client afford that or not? Or
how about training and experience? Where'd you get yours from?
Yeah, I think I've had a funny old path through. Pretty much learnt on the job, essentially. Sort of studied marketing at uni, got into media planning, buying, was working on sort of big accounts and doing that, and sort of knew pretty early on that wasn't where my future was going to lie, because I kind of felt there was a creative streak that was maybe suppressed somewhere in there. And I think because I never considered myself to be creative, because I can't draw or paint or sing or play a musical instrument, that's what I was always associated creativity with, as opposed to really it's just problem solving, like at the end of the day. And that's probably the biggest thing that we face as producers, is just like constant problem solving. So I moved out of that and worked my way through more the sales side of things in terms of media. I was working with Fox Sports and Fox Footy and that, working at multi-channel network and looking at integration of brands within major sporting properties and all the rest of it. So that's when I got close to working with the channels and going, this is really cool. This integration thing's great. I love it. This is like 2000. So, it was still pretty early days. And then it was from there that I got into production and started working in sort of more brand funded production, which was kind of new longer form TV shows and stuff, where you'd have brands basically buying into shows to put product in there and looking at creative ways to do that and all the rest of it. So it's sort of, that was my experience through advertising, was then sort of coming into production that way, but it was sort of with a brand first kind of thing. And then, basically went back to the agency that I started in the industry and set up their content division back in 2000, I think it was. And started working on Ford and a few other of the major clients. And basically they started funding productions and we started going out and doing things. And I still always laugh, because I remember we did the first job was around Ford's cricket sponsorship, and it was backyard series cricket thing. We had Billy Brownless and we were traveling around all of Australia for like 13 weeks, filming at all these like suburban cricket clubs and, having a few frothies with Billy. I always remember when the campaign went out and the content was integrated in the cricket show on Channel 9 and all this stuff. I remember one of the clients at the time, we were putting stuff on YouTube. I always remember one of the clients saying, YouTube just doesn't have that critical mass of audience yet. We just don't have, in digital, we just didn't have a critical mass of audience. This is like 2010. So it's just like, it blows my mind now to think everything is online. There's normal television is basically terrestrial TV is kind of downward trending, and everything's digital and phones and multi-screens and streaming through your TV and everything like that. It sort of makes you go, wow, that was only 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Whatever it was. And so that was kind of my progression.
Was there anyone who you could lean on or who was a mentor?
I probably didn't have a mentor as such, but it was more just you'd be on jobs and you'd be picking things up as you're going along. And it was funny. Like, again, you couldn't go onto YouTube and type in how to produce or anything like that. It's kind of, you pull out the Encyclopedia Britannica and look up producing under P. But so it was really that. But that's probably where I started to understand that a big part of what we do is organisation, and it's people management, and it's mitigating risk. And that was kind of like, you could learn from the good people that were good communicators and the ones that weren't. And you go, that's not the way I'd want to be, and vice versa.
What about scripts? Breaking down a script, pulling it apart, working out costs, days, etc. Have you got a system that you use?
I suppose it's not a system in terms of like, I've got a list that I would follow. We don't tend to do a huge amount of scripted stuff, but when we do, it's the basic things that ultimately will feed into the production budget. So I would look at talent. How many talent are we going to have on there? I'd look at locations. I would look at what's our requirement for props and wardrobe. And then you'd start to sort of break that down and start to go, all right, what do we need to allocate here? How many days is that going to mean? And then the flip side of that is more the creative part, is like, okay, how do we shoot it? what do we need equipment wise? What do we need lighting wise? And then just kind of really starting to break that down. So then that works out pretty well. I like to normally have a chat to Deep that's going to be on it with me, or and just talk to that creatively as well, and just kind of go, okay, how would we do it? How can we do it differently? What's our take on it? So that's always good, because again, you don't know everything yourself, right? And I think ideas can come from anywhere. So again, the fact that we're making something in collaboration, you want different people to input into that, and it ends up a lot better. So looking at that core crew and sort of sharing it with them and getting their thoughts on it, that's probably the way I would normally go. And then it would probably be, I would then feed back to the agency or the client, say, look, this is what I'm thinking, top line, this is the talent locations, we might shoot it like this. And then from there, I would probably then go and cost it up. I think as well, where possible, I'll always ask the client for a budget, even as rough as it might be. It's funny, but I had a builder over the other day, and I was talking to him I was asking him about a retaining wall and some stuff. And I was like, and I sort of said, how much do you reckon it would cost? And at the same time, laughing in the back of my head, going, how many times have I had, I want to make a TV scene. How much do you reckon it would cost? And I said to him, I get, like, you probably can't, I'm not going to hold you to it. I was like, I'm in the same kind of industry, in that I often say, well, making an ad or making some content is like building a house. Like, do you want a mansion? Do you want to do this, or do you want something quick and easy and just a little fix? There's so much scope in terms of how I could do something. So I find as well, having a rough idea of budget is just it just streamlines the process so much quicker, because then I can go, all right, well, you've got 30 grand, not 100. So it'll be one day shooting, and it'll be less talent, and maybe we'll cut the locations down. I'll cut the crew down, but I'll have people that can do two things instead of just having multiple people on that. So I think that really helps things. I understand people can be a bit guarded about that, because they might not know, and they might go, if I'll say 50 grand, is that too much or not enough? And for me, it's like, if you know me and you've worked with me, I'm not going to rip you off as well. Yes. Like, I always kind of go, I don't want to retire after one job working with you. I want you to have such a great experience and go, these guys made great stuff and we had a good time doing it, that I'm going to come back to you over and over again, and I want to build a relationship over 10 years. So I think that can be hard off the first job, but once people work with us, it's just a question that I'll ask, and I'm not ashamed to do it.
I think everybody asks the question, and working from an agency experience as well, I kind of always know what the budget's going to be. You kind of know, unless someone's really just trying to come up with a concept, that they've just, someone's got an idea or a concept, they're like, well, how much does this cost? But once you've got to the stage inside of an agency or inside of a brand where you've gone through the process, you've kind of got a bit of an idea of what the script is, up the chain, what the budget, what the budget allocation is.
People are weird about talking about money sometimes. I don't really get that. It's part of it. We're exchanging a service. Like, people know there's going to be a fee for doing it. So I think, again, just being upfront with it. And again, I give very detailed budgets. There's nothing hidden. I'm very transparent with all that kind of stuff. So I think, again, when people know you, they know that you're not trying to rip them off or anything like that. But I just think, if you have that conversation early, it's a good conversation to have, because it can set the tone for that project. And then,
it doesn't waste time either.
It doesn't.
It doesn't waste time. And time is everything. You don't want to spend hours or days trying to come up with costs, or, you kind of want to make it as quick and as easy as possible.
And it's like, can you give me 2 options or 3 options? Like, yeah, I can, but like, what am I taking out? Like, what do I?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, how do you rip that and go, this is a cheap option, this is another one. Well, I want the same production values, but I want the cheap version. It's like, that's always the way. So I think those conversations, that would sort of generally be the process, going through a script and having that understanding of even roughly what we're working with is super helpful for everyone.
What makes a good treatment? Is there anything specific you think that in a treatment, when you put it together, should it be short, long, verbose, minimalist, new ideas, stick to the script?
It's a funny one. I think it probably differs a little bit from the experience that I have working with certain people. If we're new to a relationship, it's trying to gauge the creative team and understand what they're really looking for. Are they looking for us to build on their ideas, or are they actually looking for us to just deliver what they want? We'll always have a point of view. I don't sort of like to go like way over the top with the treatments, because it's one of those that you think, people will generally know, I think, as well, if they want to work with you or not, if they're just getting you to put your hat in the ring or not, and they'll have a vibe for your stuff. So I like to just make sure covered all the bases for sure. But then it's really through that conversation and that dialogue and then that sort of chatting through it and kind of building that connection for them to go, yeah, this is actually someone I can see myself making this with, you know, and that comes to you kind of selling your vision for how you bring that to life, I think, as well. And especially now, I mean, people have had people write treatments for them and all the rest of them. I'm sure 90% of treatments have been written by ChatGPT nowadays, as much as that would be probably the way it is. So it's like, well, just writing fancy words on paper doesn't mean you can deliver in the real world. So for me, it's an important part of it, absolutely. But it's really more about that's just a supporting document to bringing your vision to life. And it's about that connection with that creative team who you have to build that belief in them that you can actually do it. Because production, it's just an exercise in trust at the end of the day, right? They got to trust you. The client trusts them. They're trusting you. You're trusting your crew. And that's why we tend to work with the same people, because you go, oh, you've done it before, so you'll be able to do it again. And that's a good thing in some respects, but also it's a challenge in others, because it's like, how do I just get in there? Like, how do I get that first job with those people? So, you know, that's sort of a part of it. I think visually we like to try and use our imagery in the treatment as much as possible. And with a lot of, especially in the tourism space and that, because we've done so much in that space, I really like to do that. So people can see, unless it's something really quite different or abstract. And I kind of pride ourselves on that to basically say, well, this is our body of work that I'm showing you. So you know I can deliver because this is my thing. I haven't ripped this off someone else's website or off some other campaign. We've done it. We can deliver it. So that's an important thing for me where possible as well.
How do you track costs? You got a system or a program that you use?
Well, I'm just like, I love a spreadsheet. So I think most producers do love a spreadsheet. It's always
So easy.
so easy. It's probably quite manual in that respect, but I like doing it that way. I build my estimates in there, and then I will track them in there. We use Xero. Most of my costs on a job will probably go through credit cards and stuff. So then it becomes, I reconcile all the job costs through Xero. So all my crew costs, accommodation, everything, I allocate sort of reference to that project in Xero. And then I can just run a report out of there to reconcile all the expenses, and under the different, if it's travel or crew or whatever, it's all categorized. And then I just plug that back into my spreadsheet to look at where there's sort of overages and unders, and generally speaking, there's going to be areas that you've gone over and others you've gone under and all the rest of it. So that's how I would track it post job. On the job, if it's one day, you wouldn't really worry about it. But you know, if we're doing longer jobs, 7, 8, 9 day jobs, I try to track it in the evening. But again, depending on how tired and where my level of interest is to be doing reconciliation of an evening, that's kind of the way that I would normally do it. I hate adding costs to an estimate. I've sort of pride myself very much on the fact that if you've given me a budget, or I've given you a budget, that's what we're working towards. And then it might be like, well, these are the things that could happen, so you know it, but I'm not going to invoice you for that unless it comes up or whatever. But we've had that conversation. So that tracking system's pretty good. And then it's just dialogue with them, communication.
How do you approach problems arise? Particular way of dealing with them?
Yeah, well, to my point before, like asking what if hopefully mitigates a lot of the problems, first and foremost. I just remember this now. It's probably the one time I had a massive shoot for a client, and we were actually using a performer in a suit. And this suit had been brought down from like a costume thing. It had been brought down from Sydney with like a crew of 3 guys that manicure and look after. It was a big bear suit. It cost a lot. And we were making a ridiculous content series, cooking series in a kitchen, all these short form social videos. The schedule was going to be like a real like battle to get it all done within these days, and we were already going to be overtime. We'd planned it beforehand and everything. And after half an hour in the suit, this bloke was like having a panic attack. Yeah, he was, and I was like, what's going on? He was faint, he was pale and everything. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? He's like, I'm feeling sick, claustrophobic. And this guy's a suit performer, right? So it's not like I just got someone off the street and said, hey, just get in this bear suit. So in my head, I'm going, oh my God, like this is going to be a disaster. Like no one can just jump in this suit. What am I going to do? Anyway, he went to get back in it again. He said, oh, you'll be right. Just take some there. So I'm chatting to the first AD, and he and I are just like, all right, we're gonna like sort this out. Go to the client, the agency. I said, look, he's just feeling a bit unwell. He'll be fine. Like, give him 20 minutes. They're like, yeah, no worries. All good. You know, this is like 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. We're just turning over. So this guy's like, then puts it on again, gets up, starts doing his thing. 5 minutes, I've got to get out. He takes the thing off, and he's like physically being ill. I'm like, well, we got to wrap this guy. Like, I can't do it. So I take him out of it. I'm like, what am I going to do? So speak to the agency. And again, it's like 8 or something. So I've called them up and gone, given us this guy, he can't do it. He's going to leave. I need someone. Like, what's going to happen? So they've got this other bloke to come down. They've called him. You'll be there in an hour and a half. So I'm like, oh God, so it's going to be about 11 o'clock. I wouldn't have shot anything. I've got to be shooting till 10 as is. Like, now what's going to happen? So straight on the front foot, again, go to the client, go, look, this guy's fallen ill. He's a performer. We wouldn't have known it. Like, I would not have planned it. They're sending someone else down. What we're going to do now is, I've got all these close-up shots I'm going to do. We're going to put their hand in the suit, and we're going to shoot all these close-ups and all these other things that I can do instead of the bear stuff. So we'll lose a bit of time, but I'll shoot that now and we'll turn it around and we'll wait for this other guy to come and then he'll be right. So we started, and that was it. We had a solution, we had a plan. We weren't just sitting around doing nothing. And we got there, we shot it. The other guy rocked up. We shot till late. There was a bit of extra cost in terms of overtime. Client was fine with it. And after the shoot, they said to me, they're like, I don't know how you were so calm there. And I was like, really? Because I was not feeling calm. I was freaking out. And he goes, I was really nervous. He said, but because you were so calm and you had a solution for us, it was fine. And we understood it wasn't your fault. You couldn't have done anything there. And they were fine. They were reasonable. They got it. So it was through communication and coming up with solutions on the fly.
Yeah, staying calm as well.
And staying calm. Not that I felt it, but, staying calm. But also having a really great crew around us to go, okay, how can we keep moving? What can we do? Speak to them. Can we shoot this? Can we move that there? And everyone was on board because everyone was like, we've got to pull together here and we've got to make this happen.
What are your best time management tips? Multiple projects. Obviously, you're pretty busy. Lots happening.
I always like knowing what I'm going to do when I first wake up in the morning. So that helps by doing a list the night before. I feel that's great. First of all, I like a clean workspace. So my desk is just tidy. I think that's a big thing mentally. Secondly, so then it's like tidy it up at the end of the day. So your workspace is clear. Then having that list of what are the first things I'm going to do in the morning when I hit my desk. The routine's always good when you can have it. So I'll walk the dog for like 45 minutes, but I'll use that 45 minutes on the phone to business partner, editors, anyone else. So we know what's going on. They're doing their work. So then when I get to my desk at about 9, I've got a list of things that I've got to work through. I've got everyone else working, so that's all happening. And then I'm just starting working through that list. Normally I like to just hit emails first. And again, same thing, just blast them out so things are moving with people. If I've got to do anything creative, like writing treatments or anything like that, I like to do that in the morning where I'm a bit clearer. And then I like to push my meetings more so to the afternoon because you kind of get a bit of that slump after lunch. A lot of the time you sort of go, so I find having a conversation with someone or doing meetings in the afternoons actually pretty good because it just keeps you rolling through. And I think just tackle the hard stuff first. People say this and they know it, because it's not going to go away, but actually has like a negative impact on your mindset, knowing that you've got to do it later anyway. And a lot of the time it's not actually that difficult. I find it hard to often start a document. If I've got a treatment or something like that, it's hard to actually get into it.
How do you cultivate and maintain relationships with vendors and suppliers?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think being top of mind is kind of the end goal of all the clients that we're making content for their brands. And that's the same thing for us. It's like at the end of the day, people only really need us when they need us. They call you when they need you. Yeah. They're not sort of going, oh, Nigel, how are you? Just see how you're going. My agency's not just going, oh, I just want to see what you're up to. So from our point of view, I think social media is a big part of that in terms of our Instagram. We're not trying to be influencers. It's more about we're probably trying to influence our audience, which is actually agency and clients, and that's probably the majority of our couple of thousand followers are mainly agency people. So it's always good. We always find that they're always like, oh, you guys are always doing something interesting. You're always here, or you're always there, and you're doing stuff. So I think that's an important way for us to stay kind of top of mind because that's the reality. People are just scrolling through all the time. So that's sort of a good way to kind of advertise without advertising. And then I think it's just about being relevant. Again, everyone's busy. We're busy. Agency's busy. Clients are busy. You don't want to just be hitting them up with stuff that isn't going to add to their day or giving them something that's going to be like helpful to them. So I think it's like going, well, how can I kind of send someone something that's actually beneficial to them or interesting, So again, we were doing something the other day and we came across this amazing salt lake with this massive serpent in it. So we were taking shots out there and I sent it to a couple of clients just going, oh, how are you guys? I haven't spoken to you in a while, catch up, blah, blah, check out this thing, check out this shot of Andy. And then they're back on it. Like, how good is this? Like, it's amazing. Blah, blah. Oh, you guys are always doing it. Yeah, let's catch up. Let's chat. So I just give them something that's of interest, give them something that's going to be helpful or beneficial.
What advice would you give someone looking to get into advertising production?
I think it's a people's game at the end of the day. Like what we do is just the people's game. So you need to There's obviously a technical aspect to what we do, for sure. But I think if you go into it, just be open. Like, be open to learn from people, whether they're directly mentoring you or whether you're doing it like I did, just by observing a lot of the time. And just be always prepared to change your point of view on the way something should be done, because we're never making the same thing twice, realistically. I mean, we follow a similar process in that, but generally speaking, we're always making different things, whether it's different brand, different location, different conditions, different crew. You need to be open to other people's point of view. You need to be open to what you see from them, what you observe. You don't always need to talk. You can just listen and just watch. And you can learn from people that you might think aren't doing it the way that you'd like to do it, just as much as you can learn from people that are doing it the way that you would like to model yourself on.
What about actually getting work for someone who wants to start out, hustling? How do they actually get a start if they do want to be in production?
Be prolific, like do stuff. We're always out shooting. Like, we shoot because we love it. We shoot because it's part of the lifestyle. I don't shoot because you're just paying me. Like, you've got to enjoy it. So first of all, if you don't enjoy it, get out, because you're not going to, forget it. It's going to be a real grind. Secondly, go and do what you enjoy. Kind of put your money where your mouth is in that respect. Like, do something, show people what you're capable of. Don't expect that people are just going to give you something. And we've gotten so much work from things where we've gone, we've got this great little idea. Oh, we could be great if we had a car or something to do that. So we'll just call up a car company or whatever and just go, hey, I'm doing a little shoot. This is who we are. Would you give us a car for a day and we can go and give you some shots of it, whatever. Great. So then I walk away and I go, I've got a great little reel and a few shots with a car, and we've delivered something for ourselves, given something back to that brand, but also then I've built a relationship. And they go, oh shit, these guys are good. Never heard of them before. And that doesn't necessarily immediately translate to work, but it does build that relationship. And then by doing stuff, it builds confidence in your own ability. And that's what we found even through COVID. Like, the worst part was, like, if you're not doing stuff, you actually feel like you've got no value to add to the world, like to society. So, I think if you're starting out and you're doing your own thing, get out there, talk to people, understand the industry, see where there's opportunities, upskill yourself and all that, but just do stuff, because no one's just going to call you up and go, oh, hi, Steve, I see you've just started and, like, do you want a job? Like, forget it. It's not going to happen.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, buddy.
All right, mate. I'll send you the invoice.
Yeah, please do. Please do. And I'll talk to you soon, okay? Well, that's it for today. I'll make the logo bigger. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've shared some insights and stories that I hope you found useful. Whether you're just getting started or diving deeper into ad production, there's always more to explore. Keep listening, stay curious, and we'll be back soon with some more from the world of production. Take care until then.